Hello, welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. I am your host, Jose Galison. Today I am joined by Joe and Ace. We'll be talking about the death of Renee Good, the incarceration of James Konkin, and how we are all James Konkin, at least those of us that earnestly watch this show regularly. You definitely are James Konkin. And maybe I think, kind of give cause for reflection on how things have turned out, and certain things I think would kind of leave it to perhaps when something's good in theory, it may actually be good in reality as well. So we'll discuss all that and more. Look forward to seeing you in the show. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you can tell when I'm going live and I drop a new video. We'll see you in the show.
No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jets is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Hello, Ace, Joe. Welcome back to the show. Pleasure to have you guys back. Just recently we did a show covering kind of the aftermath of a debate and kind of what that means for the larger questions of theory and the libertarian movement. And here we are again in a very much similar situation. Find that to be ironic. Maybe we should make this a regular segment, call it something like the Theory Bros. Although I don't really... I feel like Theory Bros is this term that was kind of much like the Loser Brigade and just like over time lost its meaning. Because I don't know, for those who do pay attention, I guess, to the Theory Bro political spectrum, I don't know. I'd say... I wasn't necessarily completely on par with what people think that. I'm not someone who's necessarily incredibly overly concerned with theory, but I'm a little bit concerned with theory, and I feel like that's all it really takes to have and a little bit of intellectual honesty, and it kind of leads you to getting this term these days. And that's what we're here for today, to kind of, squeeze some balls for some intellectual honesty. So pleasure to have you guys back. I don't know if any introductory thoughts, kind of I don't know, just kind of vague, the moment that we're in right now, I guess. I find it kind of interesting. I don't know if maybe there's commentary to be had in that, and just kind of in the very opaque sense of what we're dealing with right now, I guess.
Yeah, I do want to say, first off, Jose, thank you for having me back on. And I did want to say that, to your point, like, even if you're someone who's not interested in theory, I think it's important to be able to recognize that there are people who call themselves libertarians, who you would expect to be people who fall under especially if they consider themselves Rothbardian libertarians, especially those are the people I'm most concerned and interested in. Those people are the ones who themselves are adopting the framework of the theory. So if they're like already adopting that label and that baggage that comes with that label, then I would expect them to at least, care about it to some extent, right? And that's not to say every person who calls themselves a libertarian is necessarily going to be a Rothbardian libertarian. That's, I understand that there are different sects of libertarianism. But my main concern is that there's a lot of people who call themselves libertarians and who will appeal to theory when it benefits them in some self-desired way, but then throw it out when it doesn't. And at that point, it's just like, why call yourself a libertarian? Why can't you just be something else and just say, I like these policies and I don't like these? That's my main concern. Is just that like people using the label and then just, diverging from it. Like I would be completely fine if people are just like, I don't really believe in that, but I'm also not going to call myself a libertarian. It's like, okay, fair enough. That's completely fine.
Joe, any thoughts? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, my bad. No, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
First, thanks for having me again. And pretty much I echo everything Ace said, and I think this is the worst presidency of my lifetime. Like, yes. I thought Bush. Yeah. I grew up, during Bush and everything, and that was scary then. The Patriot Act was passed and everything, and like I literally watched the world like go into like this strange surveillance like police state. Not that it already didn't kind of have that in the first place, but it was so transformative. And now all the neocons and worse are getting everything that they want now. It's really disturbing.
Yeah, but at least it's not as bad as if Kamala Harris got elected, right, guys?
Right? No. we might have. We might have price controls. Oh, whoa.
We might be in 2 wars right now still, or there might be 2 major wars flickering about: the Iraq and the not the Iraq, but the Gaza war, and then also the Iran. But hell, we Venezuela. Yeah, never mind. Yeah. I'm not even gonna try to do this. There's too many to think about. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about how literally like everyone was like when it first started. It was what? It was we had the Gaza genocide occurring, and then we also had the Ukraine-Russia thing, and like the basic arithmetic of the MAGA people was like, well, he's gonna totally get out of the Ukraine-Russia thing. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. The Gaza thing's kind of a wash, I guess, but hey, we're fucked either way. But hey, he's totally gonna leave the Russia-Ukraine thing. Meanwhile, it was like what? Just like I think a week ago, there was supposed drone attacks on fucking Putin's residence or some shit. Yeah. So also, that's where we are a year into the presidency, and all the other things. Yeah. Yeah.
What a lot of people always ignore, and this happens in a lot of presidencies, it happened during Obama, and especially it's happened during Trump, is he's bombed the shit out of Somalia. And like no one seems to ever bring that up. The drone strikes there are insane. Like the amount of bombs that have been dropped in Somalia is like
it was double the previous record. It was double the previous record, which was his record. Yes. And then even then it was, I believe, more than all of the other ones, like all of the previous like 3 presidents combined or something crazy. It's ridiculous. It was insane. Yeah. It was like something near 150 strikes in Somalia. So, but yeah, go on.
Hasn't it been like 16 to 20 years that we've been bombing Somalia too?
Yes.
Yeah. Since I was a little kid. So that's because
I wonder why they're here.
Yeah, isn't it funny though? That's always they say, oh, you want anarchy, go to Somalia. Although no one really says that anymore. But it's like, well, there's a little bit of an issue there.
I would like to not be a victim of the U.S.'s foreign policy. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, all right. I guess we should probably get into kind of the root of what wicked up this. Got this moment, kind of primed. I mean, this was something I think a lot of people kind of saw coming, but I think we've just kind of hit a boiling point where it's kind of like, how do we not have this recognition? I think maybe because a lot of this immigration push on. Really not even just from a libertarian, but even from the MAGA side, things very much was a populist push. And I think there's been a Rubicon that's been crossed that has caused this to kind of, I mean, if your whole reasoning is, well, the people want it, and then there's some sort of vague, oh, we could never get elected with yada, 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 the people want it, some sort of populist impulse, well, now that's completely relying on the impulse of the populace. And it looks like that sentiment has greatly changed due to a certain event, the death of Renee Good. And I guess to kind of set the stage, I think we should probably really take a moment to hone in on the government response. Now, I obviously don't have the full response here, but here's a little bit of questioning with Kristi Noem, who was one of the first people to kind of lead off the knee-jerk immediate assumption, you kind of like of what the hell happened in the most, I don't know, crazy, dishonest sort of way, I guess. essentially right off the bat calling her a domestic terrorist and characterizing a certain way. Let's watch this clip real quick. Obviously, this isn't the full press conference or anything, but I think this will give you a little bit of a kind of encapsulation of the way it was being framed initially off the bat. This is before we got video, kind of that filled in some of these blanks. And I think this is also why really a lot of people kind of even still are unflinchingly running with dumb shit, because there are somehow still people out there that like just hear the government press conference and don't check anything else out and just take that stuff as fact. Those people still exist, but let's watch this real quick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of course. Never mind. Now there's an ad. Let me get 1 second. Wait for that to pass. All right, there we go.
Something
is in direct contradiction to what they are seeing and watching in the multiple angles that have been released.
What I would
24 hours.
Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry.
Google, you are evil.
You are evil. Yeah, right. Damn it. You gotta be kidding
this
me. There we go.
vehicle was used to hit this officer.
How many fucking? All right, this is
There's
ridiculous.
no way.
There's no way. This is the feds
no
fucking
way.
with me. I'm done. I'm not even gonna try to do it. Whatever. Ace, do you remember? You know offhand probably.
The federal government bought those ads on that video so that people would not watch it. I
literally
100%
watched
believe
this thing beforehand and cleared out the ad and had it primed and ready to go, because it usually does that initial ad. I've watched it like twice already. It didn't do that. It literally just kept ad after ad after ad. Whatever. Anyway, she initially characterized it as she was ramming the car. Kind of the most hyperbolic. I mean, I would say a flagrant, flat-out lie. But I guess perhaps you could bend over backwards to say it's just incredibly hyperbolic. Any thoughts between the two of you and kind of the way it was initially presented to us by the government? Sorry, I don't have the video ready for you guys. But
she called the victim, Renee Nicole Good, the victim. She called her a domestic terrorist, and before her body was even fully cold, just completely poisoning the well to the entire country about this woman's character and her actions. And what happened was, when you watch the video, it's immediately, right? Even if you think that he was hit, if you watch the video, it's very clear that she did not try to hit him, even if you are under the belief that she did. So it's just an incredibly, it's just like poisoning the well of an American citizen who was shot by an agent of the state in order to poison her reputation to more than half the country, probably. Or that was the attempt, at least, from the White House, from this administration.
And even if you do somehow want to bend over backwards to somehow think that is the case, you would think at the very least the proper move would be for a government agency to, especially that early on, even with the video that we saw, especially when they're taking a borderline laughable position on it, that you would think you'd want to have something along the lines of, we're going to be doing an investigation, yada, yada, yada. We're going to look into it. We're going to evaluate whether this was a good shot. If there's any, kind of the standard boilerplate, not this kind of, right off the jump, we're going to protect our people no matter what. This was perfect. Everything went well. A little concerning. Any thoughts about the initial government presentation of the facts, right off the jump? Because I find that to be very telling. And something that I feel like most people kind of in this story have forgotten, because it kind of got to such ridiculous territory so quick.
They just like right off the bat, character assassination for their ends. They're behaving like an occupying army, and that is what they are. And they're just gonna lie until they can't, and they'll probably keep doing it.
I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory about this, where, and again, I think from, if you're a libertarian or anarchist, I think this will come across as fairly reasonable. I think they're intentionally doing this in order to get someone to snap. I think that in their motivation, it would be great for them if someone just shot in an ICE agent or something like that. I think they would love that. Because then they could be like, look, guys, look, here we go. See, these are the people we're against. And that would I'm sure they could get some like poll number bump or some like sympathy from people being like, oh well, look at all this violence now. Maybe maybe these people are who the government says they are and stuff like that.
Think about sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up, but think about
No,
how
no, no, that was it.
to what is this guy's name again? I guess we'll get into him in a second, but there's already been a GoFundMe for this guy. I mean, you hear all these people like, you see all these like, pray for, hope he's doing well, and and it's just like this like over the top, just like filleting of this man that like, I don't know, she killed a woman. So like, even if you were like, it wasn't heroic. It wasn't like, even if it was like oh my God. Like it was it wasn't like, oh my God, you did some crazy. If anything, it was like at best you could, in the most bizarre of bending of the facts, you could say he was defending himself, but in the absolute most retarded way. So it's like, okay, I guess maybe she was trying to kill you, but it still makes no fucking sense to kill her. It just defies logic, really. I forgot where I was even going with that, but then shortly after all this, we got the actual video that came out after we'd already kind of got the facts, kind of cloudy a little bit there. Here is it. We'll go and watch. I'm sure most people have probably already been inundated with this like crazy, but I figure for the purposes of this podcast, we should probably at least show it real quick. This one has cleaned up a little bit audio where you can hear her saying, "I'm pulling out." So let's go ahead and watch this. She just waved on. Actually, I'm going to put this at a slower speed so that way we can, if anyone has any commentary on it. It's only an 18-second clip, though. So she waved on the first car. Now here's the cops pulling up. Now they do have lights, but it's not really marked otherwise. Then you got these guys coming out in just slacks and just kind of vaguely military attire. All of which, from my time being in the military, I still have all this stuff. As I said in my morning show, if I wanted to, I could strap up like this and go fucking throw some lights in my truck and go, fucking hold someone up at gunpoint and no one would know the difference. But let's keep going. See him walk up. I do think it's significant that hand motion. I mean, I don't know if he was directing or motioning to her or not. You see this first guy walking up that's going to actually go talk to her in the window. I think he's going to and let's see. No, that's the other one that comes in front. Yeah, but the guy behind him, he almost looks like he's motioning to kind of be like, get out of here or something. So it almost feels like these guys don't even know clearly what they were planning on doing when they came out here. Real quick, the guy who is actually even going to end up shooting, for those who are watching and tracking, is on the opposite side of this vehicle right now, which makes this even a little bit more confusing. So they kind of came up upon what was looking to be already another ICE guy who was there for some other reason, and so yeah, they were talking outside the vehicle, and these guys rolled up. So, let's be real. To some extent, this seems like, obviously, even on their side, just a gross miscommunication. It seems like the two people in the truck together weren't even really seemingly aware of what the game plan was. One came in hot. The other one seemingly was trying to motion or something, seeming pretty calm. But Ace, you had something you noticed?
So according to the eyewitness testimony, before like all the other angles came out, someone said that the ICE agents had given her conflicting orders, and before the other videos came out, everything else the eyewitness said was correct from the video. So I believe that is like what that person said. There's reason to believe that eyewitness was telling the truth in that, because everything else they said around the situation turned out to be correct and revealed to be correct through the other video angles.
Mm-hmm. And now we hear. See, now, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
It's also a well-known tactic that ICE will give people conflicting orders as a reason to, detain somebody.
Yeah.
What we see right now, we see we're at the point where I'm, by the way, we missed some of the audio since I have it played at like quarter speed, so you can't hear as well. The one guy walks up and says, "Get the fuck out of the car." As at the very moment as he's pulling it, I do think it's worthwhile noting, no one's saying you're under arrest, you're being detained, nothing, no legitimate orders, immediate grabbing of the door handle, get the fuck out of the car. And as I said before, these are guys just in attire that I could wear, which, let's be real, most reasonable people would see this and probably assume some sort of law enforcement, given the fact she is kind of, I guess, fairly enough kind of agitating law enforcement with the other ICE officers. So it's fair, these are likely other ICE officers. But either way, even despite that, this is someone jumping up on you. It seems like a completely... Even if you do want to gobble cop cum, you kind of have to be like, I feel like it's pretty reasonable to expect a cop not to, behave like this. It seems like not the correct way to enter into an interaction. You'd think you'd want clear orders. But either way, we have this guy pulling on the door, the other guy walking behind looking a little clueless. So let's keep going. He's still trying to pull. She's backing up. So we'll see another angle here in a second. So she's backing up. You see the other guy coming around. He's reaching in. Now the other guy's already pulled his gun up. Now she starts to lurch forward. Let's
watch
move
where his
back
feet
just
are
a tiny
too.
bit.
Watch where his legs are standing during this.
I also want to keep an eye on the tire because a lot of people make much ado about the tire supposedly spinning out, which I don't even see that. But I figured, now that we're watching this slowly, I haven't really taken the time to look for this supposed spin out because everyone says there's supposed. Everyone wants to say he's got hit. That the reason why she wasn't going so fast is she spun out, and that's why she didn't get the traction. She was trying to go faster. Let's go watch it. Backing up. Watch the tire. Oh, there was. Oh, to be fair, I did see a little spin there, but I also think I don't really feel like they were trying to. Now, I guess, all right, I will say maybe that's what made him pucker his butthole up a little bit because that's when he pulled his gun right there. But then she starts to cut it more. And you will be able to see better at a different angle here in a second, too. So it's kind of hard from this angle. But you can see it doesn't look like he hits him really at all. Yeah.
No.
So there's the first shot, too. You can see he's literally leaning over. I think we just saw it perfectly the first shot.
He's leaning over the hood. Yeah, he leans over the hood to get the first shot, but the first shot goes through the windshield.
Can you see my cursor right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who can see the cursor, you see where I'm hovering. There's the window right there. That's the gun right there.
Yeah.
So that's almost in her window. So
he leans forward into the car, over the hood of the car to shoot the first shot.
Now, I think I will replay this in a second at full speed because I think even slow speed gives you the impression it's a lot faster than it is. So us going at this slow kind of, if anything, actually kind of helps the cop case a little bit because I was like, oh, look at that tire. It kind of spun a little bit. But when you play it at full speed, you're like, get the fuck out of here. But yeah, okay, boom, and the last two were completely side window. You can tell perfectly. Let's show this at full speed, at least just the moving of the car. Actually, let me fix it real quick in a second. Let's play this at full speed so you guys get a better idea of the speed at which it was moving. No! Backing up, turning. Oh, a little bit of a jerk there. Okay. All right. Now it wasn't moving that fast, but I will admit, from that angle, I guess I can sort of bend over backwards and see the lurching. How someone could maybe think that, but even if he somehow interpreted that, which I feel like is a wild interpretation of that, it still is. Yeah. Well, that's retarded to shoot at a car because now it's going to be an unguided missile careening towards you.
Also, I think it's very important to note that he leans over the hood. That's not something you do if you're trying to avoid being hit by a car. Yeah.
It does seem like you place yourself in harm's way there. Yeah.
Yeah. He leans over the hood of the car to get the first shot through the windshield, and then he fires two subsequent shots through the driver's side window. And something to note here is very important is he's holding a cell phone in his left hand while he's shooting. And there's another angle. I don't know if you have that one, Jose, for after this or later on, but something that angle shows that I think actually makes his case worse because everyone's like, oh my God, this obviously exonerates the cop, right? This is obvious. The cop shot in self-defense. From that cop's cell phone video that we saw that everyone was going crazy about over and talking about this obviously proves the cop, was justifying the shoot. In his own video, you can see her turn her steering wheel all the way to the right.
Yep.
That means that he saw that too, because he's holding the cell phone directly right there. So he sees her turn the steering wheel all the way to the right. So he can't have thought that, oh, she's trying to hit me right now. She's trying to move to the other direction of you.
Yeah, I wonder if we can actually see him swap the camera from this angle. Let's see that real quick because I don't know if you've tried to see that. We can see him draw, but I don't know if we'll be able to see that. So now you see him back there. I don't know if we can see him switch hands. We see him. No, we can't make it.
No,
but we
not
do
from
see him
this
reach
angle.
for the gun.
From the
Yeah, I
other
know.
from the other video, you do see it, but not.
Okay.
Not from.
Now, before we move on to the next camera angle, I do think, I guess I kind of made a little bit of a point in kind of emphasizing how they rolled in. I do think, and I'd be interested to hear you guys' take on this because you guys are far more theory bros than I am, I guess. But maybe I know everyone, this is a libertarian shit, but it is like, even if you do want to accept the worldview of like believing in states and yada yada yada, and you want to come it from some sort of 1776, constitutionalist, whatever, I do think it's useful to, look at things in reality, in like the terms of what they are. And from there, like if you want to justify the existence of law enforcement, you need to kind of realistically say what that thing is. And for example, what we're witnessing here in the realest of terms is an attempted kidnapping that ends in a killing. Now, we can say perhaps if you want to justify cops or whatever, that perhaps you're cool with some attempted kidnappings. But I would think then that the reasoning here should be like, well, you are outsourcing kidnapping to another entity. So they are taking on the risks of this supposed kidnapping. And if they are wrong and this person's not, deserved of kidnapping, and even if they are deserved of kidnapping, to some extent you're initiating aggression, you'd think it's kind of on you to do your best to kind of mediate the aggression to reduce it upon others. Yeah. I think it's completely fair. Like, you are literally initiating kidnappings. You may, as someone out there, think, I want the cops to kidnap these people for certain crimes. And there are definitely crimes out there that I'll go, yeah, fucking I'll kidnap them. I'll help you do it. But at the end of the day, that's what they're doing. And like, unless there's some sort of active threat or something, this is like, we're witnessing a kidnapping from the start. And contextually, everything should be, we're witnessing kidnapping. Now, you may think this is a justified kidnapping for things that she has done, but this is a kidnapping nonetheless, and I think we should kind of be looking at it through those lens. So I think it's very much far more incumbent on the police to behave in a certain way. And I know people would say, well, this would justify I guess an attacking cops or this or that. And I'm like, well, yeah. You'd think that would make them all the more reason to want to make sure that this is actually a legitimate threat before they kidnap you. So, I don't know. Any thoughts on that, maybe from like a theoretical type perspective? Is it like, because I think like kind of a lot of people are missing it, and I know they're like, well, that's just because you're a libertarian or a libertarian, but like, even that aside, that's just what this is. Like, you can be as upset about it as you want. This is a kidnapping, and so we should probably understand it through that lens. But any thoughts on that? I mean, you can take a little more theoretical if you want, but I do think there's almost no escaping that, like, I mean, yeah, maybe from a legal standpoint, you can go say, well, if they're being arrested, they have these legal rights. But at least ethically speaking, you should be like, if you're saying, hey, this is right, this is wrong, that should be your starting point of like, this is a kidnapping. So any thoughts, me two of you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if private individuals, like a group of private individuals rode up on you masked with guns and started surrounding your car and then tried to yank you out, I mean, that would be a kidnapping itself anyway. Like if private people can't do that, then like nobody in the government should be able to do that. You have the right to defend yourself. And and I don't even think she really did that besides trying to get away. Like, all she was doing was trying to take a right turn, and they killed her for it. They shot her 3 times. The first shot was already bad enough. Like, what purpose was the other 2 shots for?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I do want to add here too. Let's just take the example of, like, let's say it's someone who completely just believes that the cops are justified in having this station, this role in society to do these types of things. So some people will talk about, well, the cop feared for his life. He wants to go home, so he's going to make these split-second decisions to do this. And my take is that, okay, even from a non-libertarian perspective, if you're a cop in that position and you're going to claim that you're heroic because you're defending the community, yada yada yada, whatnot, Your responsibility should be to put your life at extra risk, to potentially even be shot, to make sure that this is actually, something worth killing another person over. So this whole like, oh my God, my chakra is misaligned and I feel anxious, so now I'm going to kill someone over it. Like no, actually, that should not be a reasonable standard for someone who is, especially for someone who is in a role or a position that exalts themselves on being a protector of the community. It's like, no, you're not. You're acting like the most anxious individual ever, and just making a split-second decision. There are military people who are criticizing this ICE agent for exactly the same thing I just said. It's like, our rules of engagement, we would be locked up in a military prison if we did what this ICE agent did. So it's even from a non-libertarian perspective, this is very bad.
Yeah, and I'll go even further. I'll say not only should you be allowed to resist arrest. I know everyone goes, "Oh my God, that descended to madness." I also think not only that, if the cops get it wrong and they get someone who didn't actually commit a crime, if somehow resisting arrest ends up being your only fucking charge, then that means they abducted someone who didn't do anything. And it should be incumbent on them to pay some sort of price. Now, I'm not necessarily a big fan of our current criminal justice system, but if we had some sort of system of restitution or something like that, I think it should literally be on, maybe you could find a way for the police station to pay for it, or the individual police officers to have to pay out. They should be liable for these sorts of things. And I know everybody go, oh, it'd be such a ridiculous ordeal to arrest people. So fucking be it.
Right. You want that. You want it like, if we're in this system, you want it stacked against the state, right? That's the whole idea of the presumption of innocence when you go to court, is that it is stacked against the state on purpose. And I've had some people talk about how, because I've talked about how we qualified immunity is completely unbelievably unjust, and it should be completely removed. And some people will respond, well, cops couldn't do their jobs if they didn't have qualified immunity. It's like, well, what does that tell you? What does that say about the nature of their job? The fact that they get away with stuff no other person would get away with in any other private circumstance.
Exactly. But hey, if they're federal, it'll be okay. Not a big deal, right? All right. Then after that video came out, we had shortly after another angle, the angle that came from the ICE officer. Does anyone remember his name is? I'm forgetting his name.
Jonathan Ross, isn't it?
Jonathan Ross. I don't need to forget it because especially once they made a big hoopla about, oh no, you can't dox him. It's like, well, I'm gonna remember his name even more. So
this is public information.
Jonathan Ross, the man who murdered Renee Good. This is his video from his angle.
And keep in mind, this is cell phone. This is not body cam. This is a cell phone.
So exactly, which is important. So this is cell phone. This is coming from Jonathan Ross. Now this did come after we mentioned the hasty response from the administration. J.D. Vance even got in the mix. Kind of going back and forth, getting all sassy online with some people, and kind of made himself out to be a fool, got ratioed a bunch of times, looking ridiculous. And right then, kind of like when it was at its peak of administration looking kind of silly, then this thing dropped, and then every one of them kind of came out like, oh, see, we told you. And to be fair, I guess both sides, if in the both sides ism of this, kind of did the same thing. But I would say one of these sides is actually correct, and then a murder did occur. So, but yeah, I mean, now I will say, if you were like, oh, this proves us correct, and being like, they're probably some obnoxious, lesbian leftist or something like that, or whatever negative way you want to characterize them, this definitely did a better job of, kind of painting that picture. That's for sure. Filled in a lot of blanks people didn't have. And I think somewhat fairly, the left got a little bit alarmed by, you guys found her to be more guilty once you realized she was more of a lefty. And I can kind of sympathize with that, especially as much as I've been called a libtard lately. It's like, well, a little freaky, but this is a video that supposedly exonerated it. This gives us a little bit better of an idea of what's going on at this moment. I believe there was I think we even see it behind it, but it looks like maybe there was a broken down ICE vehicle or something. I'm not entirely sure. Even now, I think some of the details are cloudy, and there's been all sorts of misinfo, disinfo thrown all about. It's pretty, and that itself is a whole other line of commentary. It's been kind of, frankly, a little disappointing how apt everyone's been to run with clearly obvious bullshit.
I feel like I'm being gaslit on a massive scale.
Yeah, it's wild. I've lost a lot of followers recently over being pretty tepid about all this, honestly. But let's go and play this. By the way, I do have this on 75% speed, so that way it's a little bit slower. So your view of reality is a little bit distorted.
Every morning, just so you know.
By the way, for those, here you go. Let's actually back up a little bit. Here is right here. You can see. Here's him with the phone, just to prove anyone who wants to say otherwise. Here you can see in clearly a reflection, him holding the phone.
That's okay. We don't change our.
It's also probably worthwhile that I think likely why they're doing this is because there is kind of weird legal whatever. So I think it's like recording the plates, just kind of recording everything for legal reasons, I think.
Plates every
despite the fact seemingly not caring about it that much.
morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking You want to come at us?
75% makes everyone sounds drunk, but let's keep going.
He switches. Right there, just saying go. He switches holding the camera. If you notice, that's his hand grabbing the camera with his phone with the other hand.
And this is like right before. I bet you almost a step after we'll see him start stepping in front of the car. So let's go and watch this. So
I said, go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead. Out of the car.
So here now he's hearing the. Wait, did you see the exchange? Because I missed that. Let me see. Let's go back. Was it back here?
Some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Was it before or after this?
What are you asking about?
You're talking about the changing of the hands.
That was before that. That was before that. That was a few seconds before.
Okay, right here.
Did you go a little more?
Boom, boom. There we go.
Right before that. Right before that.
Yeah, I went too far. So okay,
watch
so it's even.
Watch. Look, there's his hand. Grabs it with the other hand.
Go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
And
that's important. This part's really important. It is weird. It looks like the wife's trying to get in the car with her. I guess the door is locked, and so they just kind of say "fuck it." Now we don't know exactly when the gun is drawn. I know she's the wife's about to say "drive, drive, drive." Now everyone goes, "Oh, that's like." Everyone's trying to retardedly characterize it. Not everyone, certain side, I guess, try to characterize it as like, that's her command to go murder the cop. Honey, drive, drive, drive. Which I'm like,
yeah.
I didn't interpret it that way. I was a little confused why she would say that, but I actually feel like what might explain that is either her being like, oh shit, they're fucking with you, like, or get out of here, or oh, honey, just leave. Or something. Or maybe even her seeing him putting his hand on his gun and getting a little bit kind of distressed herself. I'm not sure. So
he gets ready to pull his gun right as she completes her motion of backing up. Like right after she comes to a stop from backing up, that's the part where the gun pulls out. And quite frankly, it's important to note the reason why I believe he switched hands was so that he could grab the gun. That's why he switches hands, because he was holding his gun is on his right side. He was initially holding the phone with his right hand. And now he is holding it with his left hand. And supposedly, at least in my mind, he would only really do that to be able to get ready to reach for the gun.
All right, let's watch this a little bit. You see you're backing up. Oh, see, cutting right, hard right.
Yeah. So you can see her on the steering wheel. Like rewind it a second and look at her hand on the steering wheel. He obviously saw that.
Yeah, looking right at it, holding his hand right at her. Then boom. Now that was when it spun too. Like So you saw that little spin? That was after she turned the wheel. Because everyone points to that stupid fucking spin. You can tell the car jerked a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was after she turned her wheels right. It may not have been as evident from the other angle, but it's super obvious looking from straight ahead where he was at.
Yes.
So,
yes. And remember, he's holding this with his left hand, so it's off center. The camera is off center from his body because he's holding it from his left hand. So,
so he's actually further to the right. Yeah.
Yes.
And then a lot of people use that as like, oh my God, but keep in mind, it's not a body cam, which is why we made that point earlier. This bump right here is, I guess, maybe him bumping tiny bit.
No, I think I have something to say about this. So, one, if he was actually hit, right, he would have likely dropped the phone, especially if he was hit to the extent that his life would be in danger. He would have dropped the phone. He never drops the phone. He's holding it the whole time, and you can watch that. Can you play that whatever video you just had up? Can you play that from 40 seconds onward? I want people to listen to how many thuds you hear. Okay, starting at 40 seconds, count the thuds. That's it.
There was 3.
That's 3.
And then maybe one of them was a simultaneous 2 at once, like almost like a flam for those who ever done drums. Like did it, but that may have been like the moving. That could have been the moving of the phone, any sort of little thing. But go on.
So people are trying to say that the first thud is him being hit, and then the subsequent ones are the gunshots. But that can't be the case because he shot 3 times. So if what they're claiming is the first thud is just him being hit, then the third shot is completely missing somewhere. So that first thud has to be the gunshot.
Yeah.
On the audio.
And now I don't have a picture of the car, but you can clearly see after the fact there is a 1 bullet hole in the front window. Now keep in mind when we watched that video, the driver's side window was open. So you can kind of fairly deduce if you see one perfectly clear, shot through the front window, likely the other 2 went through the side window. And we can very clearly tell from the video we watched earlier that it was those. It literally looked like he had his gun like in her side window almost. So, yeah. And by the way, apparently he ended up suffering internal bleeding to the torso. According to 2 U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. According to 2 U.S. officials, I will say that's doing a lot of work on its own. And that even if we do buy all that, the internal bleeding is like, okay, I'm gonna need a very, very, very clear what the fuck does this mean? Because I don't buy any of that. But here is a video of him shortly after the ordeal, just kind of walking it off. He's a tough guy, I guess.
Shame! 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 Shame!
All right, sorry not to laugh. The fucking shame.
He doesn't seem to be walking with a limp. He doesn't seem to be walking with a limp. He's walking upright. Yeah. I mean, someone could say that it's like, sometimes deer, after they get hit with the car, they walk off fine, and then they're like bleeding internally really bad. But humans generally, if they get hit like that, usually there's some visible outward signs that has happened. They'll be either limping or crouching a little bit, like bent forward a little bit, something like that. No signs of that from the video whatsoever.
Yeah. So what do we think, guys? Murder or what? Oh, Jesus Christ. Breaking news. Federal agent shoots immigrant in Minneapolis Homeland Security says. It just popped up on my phone. That's great. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. But yeah. So what do you guys think? I guess kind of in conclusion, obviously we're going to kind of take this into other spots, but just like kind of in the Renee Good thing specifically, I mean, is there any meaningful... I mean, to me... Like, I know, really I try to bend over backwards to try to be like, how would they really, if you are the only way you can see this is not being a murder, in my opinion. And I get it. Oh, you're a libertarian, but it's like, this is like, don't tread on me 101 shit. This isn't even like advanced anarchism. This is like, look at the situation. If you took away badges, what would be the situation? As Joe said earlier, if you take away badges, if me, actually, there's 3 people. If me, Ace, and Joe, if we fucking jump some bitch in a vehicle and we walked up on her, and I stepped in front of her, and one of us tried to fucking open her door and pull her out of it, and then she lurched towards us, and I fucking blew her away. In what world are we thinking I'm not going to be sitting in a jail cell waiting for my court date?
Right. Yeah.
And you guys are being some sort of accomplices of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some, if anything, the interesting legal question would be more you two guys than it is me. Like, me is just like, dead to rights, you killed the bitch.
There's it's the only defense they can have, people who are just like not libertarians here, is just to say, well, the state gets to kill you in ways that no other person gets the right to do. That's really it. Right. And in terms of legal, like, what do I think is going to happen? I've spoken to my friend Dean, who I co-host my show with, our show, and he thinks there's a chance that he gets away with it, legally speaking. Oh, yeah. And I think that's probably right, just because I tend to think that I tend to think whenever a state agent kills someone, the state is going to side with itself, and it's the norms and precedents are sort of stacked in their favor. So quite frankly, unfortunately, I think that there's a good chance that he's just going to get away with this. Ethically speaking, this is murder. 100%.
Yeah, and like on the legal side of things too, it is interesting. I agree with you. I mean, but currently, right now, we're in an interesting conundrum. I mean, this is all kind of at a weird boiling point. I believe it was something like 4, 5, 6 people just resigned over at the DOJ, high levels, like the tippy top, like it was like their chief, their deputy chief, their like all the official titles. It sounds like major people resigned due to the fact that they were not going to continue to look into the probe. So they were like, "Fuck that, I'm out." And not only that, there was a whistleblower that dropped something like, what was it, like 50,000 or 5,000 identities, or I forget, thousands of names of these individuals that are roving our streets. And I don't know, that is interesting, but it is like, nothing may come of this. I mean, at the end of the day, though, the state does have a prerogative to do something, so we could end up with an interesting states' right issue, and bizarrely with all the MAGA chuds completely flipped around and now being on the side of the federal government.
Well, I don't remember if it was the DOJ or DHS. I think it was DOJ. Blocked the Minneapolis from actually even seeing any of the evidence to even be able to pursue charges. So they completely stopped them from doing this. This is obviously, in my opinion, like a cover up. They're trying to push their narrative, and they don't want to. If they don't want to release any evidence, that usually indicates that there's something that makes them look bad in it, right? So I think for sure this is just them covering their ass, especially when you see them talking about, oh my God, she was a domestic terrorist and whatnot and everything like this. This is just like poisoning the well character assassination from this jump. I
mean, as I said, something could happen. Like the state could, like Minneapolis or Minnesota could end up doing something. But I will say, at least the federal side of things, all things are them signaling to their people they will fucking crawl through glass to protect them. That is what they are signaling to their people right now. Like that, they have Stephen Miller just recently, he had made an appearance basically in the most explicit of terms, being like, you have the full and utter government federal authority to do anything. If anything anyone touches you, it's a felony. Anything at all to do with you, you have the full and utter authority. Just the most clear-throated, you are the state. It couldn't be any clearer. You can do whatever the fuck. I mean, it doesn't say you can do whatever you want, but it's kind of heavily implicit. And we have JD Vance. He said absolute immunity multiple times. I mean, there's been many people quick to point out, hey, that's not even a thing. But I mean, you're kind of in a certain sense, it is. When you're talking about the federal government doing what it wants, it's kind of a little bit further than just qualified immunity. It's kind of like, we have absolute immunity. What are you going to do about it, bitch? Which is kind of what our foreign policy looks like right now. So is it really that crazy? Our domestic policy is following suit. Sorry, it sounded like you want to get something there, Ace. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I wanted to give Joe room to say anything he wants, but I do want to make one quick thing on this topic real quick, which is that a lot of these ICE agents are just random people. Quite frankly, in my opinion, with psychopathic urges, pulled off the street, just complete randoms, given I think like 40 days of training or whatnot. Less training than
50K
cops.
signing bonus.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's completely true. That it's literally random people. Like you can literally express that you despise ICE and like everything. Like I don't know if you saw. Or it was either earlier today or yesterday.
Was that Slate?
Somebody, they this lady. I think she's got Antifa sympathies and everything. She was able to join. They're just letting people that whole recruitment campaign that they got going on, like they're serious about it. Like, yeah, you want to come round up illegal immigrants? Here you go.
Yeah. They have less training than cops, and I'm not a person who thinks, well, it's mainly a training issue, which is why cops are violent. I think it's state incentives and just the type of people who are attracted to that job. But certainly, having less training than a cop is not something that is going to be good necessarily, given how we know how bad cops can be. Just random people who we don't know who they are. There's no identification towards these people. They're just masked agents of the state for anonymity purposes. They just have the legal license from the state to go around and harass people and even kill them if the state says they can.
Yeah, we were talking before the show that was on Christy Nome's podium. It says, let's say, one of ours, all of yours, which
yes.
There's been a lot of people having much to say about perhaps it having some historical lore, perhaps the Nazis. I don't fucking know. I've seen a couple of other things along these lines. Either way, regardless, it's like you don't even need that.
Right.
I did look it up. So there were some. I couldn't find where that was an explicit Nazi saying. I did find something similar in Spain in the 1930s was something I did find where it was a similar phrase. But even if we ignore that, just like you were saying, it's that is just saying collective punishment, right? That's just saying, hey, to me, that's I can't think of another interpretation, quite frankly. Even if I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to these people, which I don't, what other interpretation is there? One of ours, all of yours? That's collective punishment.
Yes.
That's an insane thing to have on your podium in the United States as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And now
in regards to the thing that happened in Spain, I don't remember the details, but one person did something and they destroyed that town or city.
So that was in Czechoslovakia. It was the Nazis. There was some village in Czechoslovakia where I guess one of the Nazi officers was killed, and they just wiped out this entire village. They sent the women off to concentration camps, and they killed every man and boy in the village.
It was Nazis for sure. I read that it was just some other fascism thing.
So the phrase, I believe, there's a similar phrase that came from fascist elements in Spain in 1930s, but there was an actual incident of the Nazis collectively punishing an entire village for killing a Nazi soldier. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and now we got these jackbooted thugs in the streets. We could spend time going through all these clips, but if anyone's been on social media, at least my feed lately has been pretty filled up with these. Maybe it's a matter of having different feeds, being in different worlds, but I've been getting a lot of these. I wasn't really too aware of what the situation was on the ground, but we are getting lots of these people just breaking into houses, abducting people seemingly willy-nilly. I mean, just the most absurd, over-the-top stuff that, the sort of stuff that Alex Jones was, wigging out about a decade ago, that ironically his audience is all for now. We're in a bizarre world. And then to kind of drive this point home, one of ours got James Konkin. Apparently now we're at the point where Fed posting will get you. If they can't get you in all the other more over-the-top fun ways, honeypot you, or find some plant some stuff on your computer, or find some thing you did in the past and blackmail you, or give you some money. Well, they could just look into your past and misconstrue some things to make it seem like you said things that, let's be real, I don't know. I looked at things this guy supposedly said, and they weren't even really that bad. So, yeah, it's very concerning for someone like me. Basically, when I say I am James Konkin or we are James Konkin, at least for me speaking, like, yeah, like anything he's been accused of, I've done that, if not worse. So, which is kind of been astounded by a little bit of the some of the people's reaction I've seen of kind of like, well, you shouldn't be Fed posting. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, to some extent, sure. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Fed poster, but
yeah, maybe you could say it's not prudential, but at the very least, it's like this is supposed to be free speech, right?
And even then, though, even from a not prudential, it's like if you're in this movement, like if you're someone that me and you have ever vibed in any way, shape, or form, you've almost certainly done this. Like,
yes, right.
Like, and in many different ways, and to the most like ridiculous of degrees. But I don't know. I guess I can't really assume our audience knows what I'm talking about here. But one of ours got. And it was ICE. So ICE actually arrested one of ours. I say one of ours. Me and him weren't mutuals or anything. I don't want to make sure I wasn't like falsely representing it. James _Konkin. I don't really remember anything about him. But he. Anyways, Ace, I guess I'll let you take it over. I mean, you know, this is one of your buddies. You can probably present this a little bit better than I can. What exactly happened to him? But it looks like he, unironically, like as I said, he got for Fed posting.
Yeah, and Joe, if you want to jump in at any point, just interrupt me. It's totally cool. I don't want to
Sure.
or whatever. Yeah. So I am mutuals with James. I've interacted with him a good bit. I haven't interacted with him maybe the most of like all the people he's mutuals with, but I always like enjoyed his posts, and I think I think politically, really, me and him are actually like really close in terms of like our beliefs. And it's when I first heard this, I was really shocked. I was actually taken aback because I looked at his account and I'm like, yeah, he hasn't tweeted since November of last year, and that's really when around the time right when he got arrested. And it was like completely shocking to me and enraging, really, especially when I read like what it was over. And like some people are trying to like paint this as, because in one of the things he talked about like buying someone a beer, and people are, and I think the state is trying to say that this is like, what do they call it?
Some
like
kind
a
of bribe.
commission. Yeah, like a bribe or a commission for like a, if you do this, I'll give you this in payment, as if it's like a plan.
Yeah, as if he's putting out a legitimate hit, like,
but if
one each ICE agent, one each beer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And for one, like, and I think this was brought up in his by his defense attorneys, but it was just like, that's just like how people talk on the internet now. For one, that's just like, that is fairly common speech nowadays on the internet, and given how radicalized people have become just like from this administration, a lot of people have done the same thing. So it does seem, for one, like cherry picking, and two, if you see that quote in full context, which the article actually doesn't, I don't think include.
No, it doesn't. I wanted to ask you. I think I heard your coverage of it, and it sounded like you guys had more context. I don't know if maybe some people unearthed some of these tweets.
So I'm trying to give me a second. I'm trying to find it because I know.
For example, I know one that you mentioned. Let me see if I can find it in this original Forbes one. There was let me see. This one right here, I remember hearing you guys' take on it, and the way that it's framed here is so disrespectful. Or not disrespectful, disingenuous. But like, and even then though, if you just apply the slightest bit of critical thinking and read this skeptically, you can kind of already see it before even really knowing. So you see here, the suspect was also seen in a private chat with another user who wrote that, okay, in quotes, the only thing that will solve this is Trump being dead. Now, ... Now, you need a little bit of, I guess, literacy when it comes to these sort of things and how journalism works. When you have that ... that could mean that ... is somehow in the quote, actually. But more times than not, that means it actually means there's a gap between these two things. So there's something they're cutting out ... for whatever reason. So you have the only thing that will solve this is Trump being dead ... dot dot dot. So we're missing context. And then we get only thing I can do is like plot a manifesto dot dot dot. So we have another break, and then we get fuckhead Vance, which even the last bit right there kind of gives it away a little bit. In that, like, that's kind of
do it. Like,
yeah,
why you can't do this?
yeah, this is why you can't. But even then, they're going to pains to break this up to make it seem like something it's not. You can jog my memory. I believe this was either a self-contained message from some other person that they themselves, like within their own message, or basically like, oh, political violence would be great, but that actually wouldn't work because yada, yada, yada. Or it might even be, if I recall correctly, even more so than that. And our boy Konkin here actually is the guy who goes, whoa, 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 let me tell you, like, that actually won't work because yada, yada, yada. Which, I mean, either way, regardless of that, like, we've all been that guy. Like, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, some fuckhead and some GC is like, what would be great? Political violence. I know everyone goes, oh, that's a Fed or whatever, but no, it could be a young idiot. I mean, let's be real. A lot of people buy the Kool-Aid of all that 1776 nonsense, and that is what they tell you you're supposed to do. If you are a true American patriot, you're supposed to, water that tree of liberty or whatever. You got to overthrow it. So, like, if there was ever a time, so my point being is it's not that crazy. But we've all been that guy, and if anything, it's actually like even more so that, like, I've been that guy, but then been the guy who's like, oh, no, that wouldn't make sense. Because I think there are plenty of occasions in which political violence can be morally correct. I'd say the vast majority of situations, they are not prudential.
I mean, I don't know how someone can consider themselves a patriotic American and not believe that, right? The country itself was literally founded on that.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's, it is kind of bizarre, which is like, so... Like, we can't even have these sorts of conversations. Like, I get it. Now, if you're talking about, like, meaningful details on, like, a plot to kill the president, okay, sure. We're in a different place.
This is shit. Yeah, this is like shit posting with friends. Like, in this is what this reads like to me. Like, it's like the biggest nothing burger ever.
Yeah.
And knowing our circle is like, we can almost guarantee that that's what was happening.
Yeah, yes. I mean, from what I'm seeing here, there's no reason whatsoever that ICE couldn't just roll up to my house and take me for right now. Like,
right.
Like, I'm surprised it didn't happen when I was 18.
They could find worse. They could find worse shit for me than what I've seen in this. I've seen this article. I'm trying to think of any other examples.
I've probably been on a list since I was 15.
I mean, but
I was going to say that actually, because like I'm mutuals with him. I have interacted with him. They seized his phone. I seized his phone. They went through all of his chats. And by the way, the tweets that some of these were private DMs, I believe, and some of these were tweets that he posted. But these were long deleted. I think before, like, they'd been deleted for like 2 months, and Twitter just gave them over to ICE. They're like, oh yeah, so Twitter is holding like deleted tweets for at least 2 months, probably longer, quite frankly, and just handing them over. But I there's always been this sort of like, running like meme, but it's not been a meme because it's always been like, of course, I believe it's true that there are feds lurking in like libertarian spaces. I do believe that, but I think it's even more true now than ever, or at least more provably true now that a lot of us are probably on lists somewhere, most assuredly, on some government board.
Yeah, no, I was getting, I mean, I don't know, I get schizophrenic being in this world. I was getting death threats the other day as I was going hard. Like, it was literally the moment, like, someone tagged the FBI, and then within 10 minutes, I was getting death threats. And
I hate those fucking people that do that.
It was the most bizarre thing. Like, no, I mean, like, I literally was getting emails. And the most bizarre thing, I actually posted about it online. I mean, whatever, maybe I'm just connecting dots, so it should be connected, but I posted something kind of about the Renee Good thing. I got a lot of people worked up and like all upset. And then someone tagged the FBI for being like, saying I doxed the guy or something. And then I shit you not, within 15 minutes, I had a email that was a death threat, which, okay, to be fair, you could probably say it was a death wish, but it was one of those ones that blurred the line so much. It was like very much the kind of the mafiosa kind of thingy. Kind of like, I'd love to see, blood dripping out. Like literally kind of like, that sort of like, you're going to end up just like Charlie, like literally like written like it was from like a left winger. and like for some tranny shit, like upset about some tranny shit or something, which is weird to me because I mean, I guess I had said something recently, so I guess it could be. But anyways, it seemed like it bizarre to me. Like as the right wing is very upset at me for speaking my mind about the Renee Good thing, I have death threats in my emails from some person who announced themselves by name. Their Gmail was their name, and the name was in there somewhere else as well, which made it even more like I don't think that's your name. Yeah, it was from a left-wing perspective and literally referenced Charlie Kirk like twice. It was kind of like, I'd love to see you, your neck bleeding or something like that, and then ends with you're going to end up just like Charlie or whatever. And so, I mean, not that I'm like scared or anything, but it's like feds among us. You're like, this is these are the sort of, and then on like you can get you get lost when you start getting this influencer game, and that is weirdly where the energy is at these days with this new media landscape. It's only getting worse. The way that I don't know, certain characters are moving behind the scenes over there. But anyways, I'm getting a little lost in sauce. This is where I'll get all to the side to another topic, talking about like Peter Thiel fucking giving people Thiel bucks behind the scenes and shit like that. Yeah. All right. So I'm trying to think anything on this. I mean, I guess I know I already said it, but I do want to real quick emphasize one more because it is. I know, yeah, it's funny. Like might all be on lists and stuff, but it really is. I hazard anyone to read this article and honestly tell yourself this couldn't apply to you. Like. Yeah. Like I haven't been one who's fed posted in a while, but like been fed posted like this. But if you were looking at my internet history from like 2020, or especially when I was like into Boogaloo memes and stuff, like it would be this, but way worse. So like this, I literally could go to jail right now for what this guy has gone to jail for. And this is on the backs of ICE nonsense. This is because they're saying. Apparently this is directed at ICE. Now, to be fair, I never really was someone who's too worked up about ICE. I was never like really my target of ire, so I guess maybe it wouldn't apply to me. But I mean, any red-blooded American, you swap out that letter ICE for ATF, and I think you can immediately get what I'm saying. Like, oh no, they lead off this article with the only a good ICE agent is a dead ICE agent. Well, if I guarantee you, like the majority of my audience has probably seen somewhere and thought, hell yeah, the only good ATF agent is a dead ATF agent or something like that.
Right.
So, yeah. Sorry, you're going to say something, though?
No, I sent in the DMs, I sent the full context for that one tweet that the article kind of left out. But also, I do want to say, so I was speaking to Dean, who's a lawyer, who's my co-host, and there are competing legal precedents on the First Amendment. The old precedent, all of this would have been completely legally justified. All of it. Everything he said would have been obviously legally justified. There are new precedents that could possibly pose a danger to his case. So it really is up in the air. I hope and I think that I don't know, because we all saw what they did to Ross Ulbricht, so I really hope that the old First Amendment precedent wins out and that this just turns out to be nothing and he's released and he's free to go and, come back to social media and all that. But, I don't know. There are competing legal precedents that have different interpretations of the First Amendment going on right now. And it really hangs in the balance of which precedent is going to sort of be used here when applied to his case.
Yeah, here is this is funny enough. This is from Fakertarians. That's a blast from the past. It says, here's the quote in question. If you think this is actually soliciting murder, it says, I have some oceanfront property in Nebraska you may be interested in. All right, here's the quote. It says, amnesty plan where all illegal immigrants get to stay, and if you kill an ICE agent, and he puts legal under my plan, I buy you a beer. Like, obviously, that's a joke. Like,
that's not solicitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like literally theorizing a hypothetical funny world. And it's like, in my world, I have my amnesty plan where you're all going to stay, and if you kill an ICE agent, I get you a beer. So, I mean, that's a joke. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I made a joke about making a regular festival where we all rape each other, and like there's so many worse things that we've all said. This isn't that bad at all. But yeah, I mean that's probably the worst thing in that post. I mean, let's be real, it was kind of ridiculous on its face. I mean, who really ever thought that there's no way anyone genuinely thought that he was going to buy someone a beer to murder someone. It's obviously some sort of joke, turn of phrase. But I guess that kind of brings us to, I didn't realize I didn't even have this up, but not that it matters. No one needs to see this. But I guess that kind of brings us to kind of reflecting on all of this. Now, I guess to kind of start this all off, I've never really been someone who was ever all like a big on the border question. In libertarian theory, border, I mean, I consider myself a libertarian. I mean, we could get super into the weeds of what we are or this or that, or, are you deontologist? But generally speaking, libertarian, I've generally kind of, we had this conversation last time. I guess I technically am not a deontologist. I technically don't look at the NAP as a principle, but generally, other than insane circumstances, which even then, most of the people who would laugh about libertarians would be like, they'd actually probably consider me one in the degree to which I'd go with it. But I technically see as more of like a preference in a certain extreme sense. But generally speaking, I think that should be the normative behavior, is the non-aggression principle. So this is, now I believe this is a, conducive way to live one's life. Then, kind of if it's something that's encouraged amongst everybody, this leads to a flourishing society. And so this is kind of a very basic principle or preference, if you want to put it that way. And I think it's pretty clear with this immigration issue, this is where there became an issue, where it's like, how do we understand this as not being aggression? I know there's some arguments that some people make for, somehow being the proper libertarian position, utilizing, some sort of Hoppian type framework or something, which maybe we'll get into that in a second. But I mean, I even then, I always kind of was a little bit hesitant about that. I mean, I love Hoppe's probably my favorite theorist. I mean, of all of the works. But even then, it kind of I forget even then what even his specific take was on immigration. But it's not even it's not even like people are pushing for Hoppe's version of immigration anyways. So it's kind of almost irrelevant. But even then, I always kind of, it just seems like it doesn't make sense. I mean, hell, on its very face, just, the government, if you're giving them a task, incentives are what they are. They're going to give you the worst possible thing for the most amount of money. So on its face, it's kind of why would we entrust them with this task? So whatever. But either way, my point being is, it's I've always kind of struggled, but I kind of understand the argument from perhaps a bordertarian, but I've always it's kind of weak. I know there were pushes for debates and stuff, and it weirdly always ended up seeming to evolve into, there never seemed to be an open border versus closed border, even though I feel like that's kind of a misframing of terms. It was always almost I'm for 5% immigration and I'm for 7% immigration. That seemed to be the debates we get. And it always seemed to me from the outside looking in, someone who's kind of agnostic to this topic, that a lot of the legwork was being done for the bordertarians with the populism angle, and kind of there's no way we could get voted in with this, and then yada yada yada. It's also sort of the libertarian thing. You're is it really though? And it just kind of gets smuggled in there somehow, because it's just that it would be ridiculous if this wasn't the case, is almost seemingly the implication. And I think perhaps, given as a lot of the legwork is being done by this populism impetus, I think we're seeing a very much a pushback with that right now. We're seeing the polls are looking very, very different. The populism energy is no longer in the pocket of this. And so I think at the very least, perhaps people should take a step back, relook at this stuff, and go, oh shit, especially if you were somewhat, maybe, I don't think anyone would ever actually explicitly say that was the case. So maybe I'm being a little bit disingenuous here, but I that's me trying to do my best to try to understand where these people are coming from, I guess. Is that somehow you took some sort of populist, this is a political winner or something, but here we are, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So I really do feel like there needs to be some reflection done. If you were someone in this party that you push for, you believe in things like the non-aggression principle, and you take value in being consistent in your thinking and believing this is what leads to a flourishing world, but for some reason it just doesn't work here, or you find some cockamamie way to make it work. I don't know. At the very least, I think people need to sit back and think about this. I mean, I'm someone who always, like I said, I'm agnostic about it, but I always kind of was like, like everything, my incentives, like, you know, if you think about the path that I walked, I should have been like, if I wanted to grift or whatever, I should have gone right along with all this stuff. But it was just always kind of like, I think it's just missing some crucial component, you know, the actual facts, the actual theory that backs this up. And I never really felt like I ever got that. In fact, it felt like kind of the opposite. The only arguments we saw to the contrary was like, well, that'd just be ridiculous. That'd just be, what do you want to do? Nothing?
Goofy.
Yeah, that'd just be goofy. I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly what I'm trying to get at. I mean, I guess maybe we can, I don't know. I guess Ace, do you have any thoughts on kind of this, kind of reflecting back on how we got here? And maybe because I don't really know how we don't, given the current moment, some people don't have a moment of self-reflection. It's kind of like the chickens have come home to roost, I really think.
Yeah. I have a lot to say here, but Joe, do you want to say anything? Because I've talked a lot this episode. I don't know if you want to go first, maybe.
Just regarding theory type stuff, mostly. A lot of this has all, you know, it's come from Hoppe and, you know, the paleo libertarian strategy regarding, you know, immigration. But you know, I've gone back and forth on it. You know, I used to not really have an opinion, but I got into Mises, Rothbard, and Hoppe probably sometime around like 2017 ish, and you know, Hoppe, I've consumed all of Hoppe's stuff, and I was, you know, pretty much convinced of his border argument, although, you know, it was an uncomfortable position to take. But you know, as the years have gone by, you know, I've done a lot more reading on theory and everything, and I no longer find that Hoppe's restricted border argument valid. There's this like idea that like all the money expropriated from taxpayers somehow like metaphysically transfers ownership into resources that the state like appropriates or uses that sort of money to pay somebody else to, you know, make something for them. But that's not how ownership works in libertarian theory, and Hoppe's own works as well. He says, he emphasizes multiple times as well that ownership can only be when specific actors appropriate a scarce resource and make it intersubjectively ascertainable, or, you know, everybody can tell, like, oh yeah, that's not some natural resource. Somebody is using that for some purpose, or trade or gift. Those are the only possible ways that you can have a right to the exclusive control of a scarce resource. And so that's the main reason that I no longer agree with any kind of like, oh yeah, the taxpayers actually own the property, because then that brings up another problem of subjective value. When even just two taxpayers, they're just two people and they were getting robbed and the money was being put into something. When what if both those people wanted to do something different with that thing? If they apparently both have a claim to it, then they're going to come into conflict. And the whole purpose of rights is conflict avoidance. So it couldn't possibly be the case that the taxpayers own the public property. It must be unowned. That's the only conflict avoiding way to deal with it. And on top of that, because of that, you can't have politicians, you know, acting as caretakers for the public property for the taxpayer, because they don't know what the taxpayers want to use that resource for. So it's just going to be used for what the state wants, and they'll just whatever gives the state more power is what they'll accept as the reason for using that resource for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see it anymore.
Mm. I mean, real quick, at its basic elements, though, I just feel like it really. I know everyone wants to come up with these cockamamie, complicated, or kind of over the top, like a Hoppian type or whatever to explain, to justify it. But at its base, like kind of as we saw these things I've been saying, like, okay, cool. Let's say you think somehow deportations or mass, kick or whatever the fuck is somehow going to help. Now, given the incentives in place of the state, how it's going to work. If you elect a person and you give this resounding mandate to have certain X thing happen, how is this going to play out? To what degree are you actually able to establish your will onto what actually gets done? And this is kind of like one of the major flaws in politics, generally speaking. So you, as some rightoid, think you're going to put pressure on the state and get your desired action. Now, what is the reality? What is the real situation that's going to happen? And I think kind of what we're seeing now, jackbooted thugs, because I think most people would even say, like, oh, I don't want them doing this, doing that, like they should just be, deporting. And I mean, some people are like, hell yeah, this is what I wanted. But I mean, between that and then all the other things, like we have like the visas getting revoked for saying things about Israel or protesting in college. I mean, like, so you don't even really get what you want, and you're probably souring the public. So even if you are some border warrior, it's like you're kind of creating the police state that's going to get you. I mean, everyone's all concerned about losing the midterms because the Democrats are going to come in and destroy them. Meanwhile, they're like perfectly creating the little police state that's going to, perfectly do whatever they need to do with them. So it just is on its face just so retarded in so many fucking levels. And it's just one of those things where, like, I don't really understand how we ever were cowed into this is the intelligent position. And I don't know. It always kind of struck to me. This is why I'm not a voter. I'm not really. It's kind of stupid to me even to be like, oh, I'm going to get this guy to do something. Okay. Like, how's that going to work out? So, like, even to our discussion on, like, Kamala, Trump, this or that, like, when I joke and be like, oh, like, I actually do think we'd probably be about the same, if not a little bit better with Kamala in office.
I agree.
Now, does that mean that I actually like their, like, if I was to put their policies or, what their perceived policies were or going to be at the time, I actually think I would probably say Trump probably, ambiguously, vaguely, sort of more aligns with my thinking on things, generally speaking. But it's a matter of what actually happens. Like, if you elect a Democrat in office, what happens? Like, it's this counterintuitive thing. Ironically, if you're a rightoid, it's actually usually probably most times in your benefit for a left-wing president to get in there, especially if you have like the House and everything else is right-wing. It's actually probably a better situation for you and your rights and all these things. And I think we probably would have had a very similar thing with Kamala. But I mean, that doesn't mean I like her better.
Right. And it wasn't even just the fact that Trump won. It's the fact that he got the House and the Senate as well. Right. That's also a big major thing as well. But on the immigration topic. So this is a pet issue of mine, admittedly. I've thought about this position for years, and I was never satisfied with Hoppa's position. And there's a bunch. So I wanted to find terms first. When I say open borders, all I mean is a no policy where the state does not restrict people from crossing the border. That's all I mean. I don't mean any added things after that. It has nothing to do with what the immigrants do.
Oh, so you want the state to cart in thousands of immigrants, Ace?
Right. Yes.
Is that what you want?
That's exactly my position. Yeah. So that's what I mean. And the opposite of that would be the opposite of what open borders is, which would be closed borders, is the state restricting immigrants from crossing the state's line. So that's all I mean. I mean them in a very thin, limited sense. And I do have some like rapid fire arguments I just want to list off here. The first argument that I would say comes mainly from Rothbard in the late 80s, which is this idea that, we want to approximate justice, and the idea of this is we treat public property as if it's private, right? This was one of Rothbard's later works, and I forget the exact title of where this comes from, but I've read it multiple times, so I apologize. Or no, What to Do Until Privatization Comes. That's it. And Rothbard proposes this idea that, well, we should just treat public property as if it was private. That's the main crux. There's a problem with this. There's an epistemological problem, first off, which is that we do not have any knowledge about how a private property owner would run any particular piece of private property that they own. There's not some like normative sense of, there's not a normative like fact about how one's property ought to be used outside of just non-aggression, right? So someone could own their property and they could say, okay, no guns, right? Someone
approximation that's going to be interpreted by state actors. But go on.
Right. Yes. Right. Exactly. So if we're going to say that that we should treat public property within the United States as if it's private property, well, there's a lot of people who would say no guns. Okay, so does that mean if the state's going to approximate, does that mean people are now no longer allowed to carry guns on the public property? Right? That's what that would mean. If we were libertarians and that was the position, libertarians would have to support that policy. That's in just a direct fallout of what Rothbard would be talking about here. Or also COVID restrictions, right? You can't enter public property without being vaccinated. So there's all these things that if the people who are arguing for immigration restrictions are serious about, it wouldn't cohere with their other beliefs, like unrestricted gun ownership on state land, or being able to go outside during COVID freely. They would have to accept all these other positions, but because they don't, it indicates to me that this is a position taken from not from a commitment to actual libertarian philosophy, but they have their own interest in pushing these positions. Another one with Hoppe's thing, which Joe talked about a moment ago, is that libertarians have this theory of title transfer that comes from Rothbard and William Evers, I believe is his name. I know it's Evers. I think it's William Evers. Of contract theory, which is the title transfer of contracts. And basically, the idea is that when I want to give you something for you to become the owner, I have to initiate the sale or the gifting to you as the owner, or I can have an agent do it or something like that. But title does not transfer if I'm stolen from and then someone else sells the stolen goods to you. So even if that sale, even though that's a sale, what that really is a fraudulent transaction. And what that means is that the title doesn't transfer. So when the state steals your tax money and then they give it to some private contractor to build a road or something like that, because it's a fraudulent transaction, no title actually transfers, which means that the taxpayers never actually traded with the contractor to gain ownership of the road or something like that. That's the major problem. Another thing people will say is that, well, but if a private thief steals your money and then they lose the money or something like that, normally in tort law, what can happen is that you can claim something of the thief's property, right? In some formation like that. Well, one problem with that is the state is actually a unique thief. It's not like most common thieves, because most common thieves have some property that they have legitimately acquired, right? And normally in a tort case, that private property that they legitimately acquired can be given to the victim of the theft. But because the state owns no property legitimately, which is a very core libertarian anarchist belief, there's nothing that the taxpayers can claim as there's nothing the state has that can be given to the taxpayers via tort, because nothing they actually have is theirs in the first place. So that's a big problem with a Hoppe's formulation of the taxpayers owning it. If you have any questions, by the way, jump in, because I have a few more to go here. But if you want to jump
no,
in.
I agree. I'm just listening and taking all in. Okay. I mean, it's been something it just felt like I don't know, Hoppe's. I mean, I always kind of interpret it as kind of his thing is almost like if we were to almost like it was a thought experiment, not necessarily a prescriptive, because I feel like there was also some weird, I mean, maybe he changed it in some of his later writings, but I swear in Democracy, I could have swore it was kind of almost here's if you were going to try to operate a state and that most But anyways, I mean, it is, I think, at its flaw though, trying to utilize the state in any way, shape, or form is kind of, you're going to fall prey to incentives. So it's almost like ignoring that first thing from the jump. It's like, what are you going to get out of this? Like, even with these like overly complicated, like, oh well, perhaps we could, make some sort of maybe a gray area or something libertarianism wise when it comes to borders. It just seems to miss the mark entirely. It seems to me that, so I mean, just as from the jump, from like, oh, we're going to get state to do X thing, you're like, I know it's libertarianism being mad when state does thing. It's like, well, yeah, because like they fuck up everything, and that's like, and this is just on its jump. Like literally, the beginning of Democracy God That Fails goes into all this stuff, incentives, yada yada yada. It's like everything about this entity is to create shit for you. So like, like that's, I don't know why we would entrust this to, and I get like, oh no, well the border will be wide open. Okay, then it literally is better than the alternative. Like, even if, which for one, I think that's a retarded way. People are like, oh, they're just going to, like, for one, like, you could, if you do want to, make appeals to the state to change the way in which they do things, and you're desiring of that, then sure, then you should make appeals for them to reduce the welfare and warfare states. I feel like it makes, because that's trying to get them to have less power. But if you're trying to entrust them with more, and I know a lot of people are like, well, this is kind of like law enforcement, but I'd actually say the same thing about law enforcement. I think you should be trying to draw them back as well, because, I mean, I've utilized 911 like once in my life, and even then, it was for a medical emergency. And so, like, a cop, if anything, the cop was fucking annoying. Like, there was a cop that showed up, so like, no, they were fine. Like, but like, if anything, they were just like, they were a body in the way, and kind of like, if anything, make the situation more tense when you're already dealing with like a stressful situation. So point being is, it's like, I know a lot of people like say, oh, well, it makes people stay safe and this and that. Like, it sounds to me like I'm really, really, really getting gypped, considering as I'm 34 years old and I have never used the cops. They've only ever fucked me. It's
there is
so I think it'd be better off if I didn't if I didn't have cops. I think something else would fill that gap. And for somebody like me, that would literally having nothing is better than the alternative, which is that we're currently living. So,
there is a practical like irony to a lot of libertarians who support like ICE or like border restrictions, to think that, oh, well, this one time they'll do exactly what I want them to do. It's like, it's just kind of odd compared to like every other belief that they have. But there are a couple more arguments that I want to address here real quick about like that would seemingly try to justify border restrictions. Another conclusion that falls out of Hoppe's proposal that not a lot of libertarians actually, I think about, is that, because Hoppe's whole deal is that, the reason the immigrants can't come over is that they're not net taxpayers. And that means that any services they would use or crossing on public property would be net tax consumption, and it would be a drain on the taxpayers of the area. One thing with this is interesting is that it's not just federal, though. It's not just like federal services, it's also state and local. So if you had, because a lot of states have their own like welfare programs that are unique to that state. So, and even, localities have their own, public services and stuff like that, towns and small cities. So if that was the case, that what Hoppe said was correct, it would actually bar people from traveling to other states and potentially even towns or cities. Right, in other areas, meaning we would essentially, because what we would be doing is if we imagine that you're a net taxpayer in your state, you're not necessarily a net taxpayer in another state. So the same argument that would bar immigrants from entering the country would also bar people, residents within the United States, from moving to even different towns in some cases. And a lot of libertarians do not want to bite that bullet. Who support border restrictions. So that's also another like incoherence with their own policy. Another famous one is the welfare state. They'll say that, well, we can't, Milton Friedman's famous, argument that you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state, but you can't have both. Well, one issue right here. Imagine this, and I've gotten criticism for this argument, but I still think it's good. I still think it's good, and I still use it. If the argument is that we can use force against people who would, in some sense, gain like welfare services or state services through taxation, and that's a justification to use force on them to prevent that outcome from happening, well, I don't see a reason outside of people finding it icky to then oppose procreation restrictions. After all, children who are born into the country benefit from state subsidization, such as schooling, and in other locations, healthcare, or in some cases, the more kids you have, the more welfare benefits you get, things like that. It seems that there's no real good principled justification to say, well, yeah, why can't we just stop people from procreating by that same topic? And that's something libertarians will not bite the bullet on 9 times out of 10. But I think I do think it's the same. Now, some people will say that, well, but yeah, the immigrant chooses, but it's like, okay, but the parents are choosing, right? Even if we want to say, well, the kid is innocent here because they didn't choose, the parents are still choosing. So would the state have a right to stop them from procreating because it's their choice to do so? They're causing the event to happen. I think, quite frankly, if you buy into the idea that the state has a right to restrict people from entering the country, that also has to apply to children if they want to remain consistent. And that's just not a thing a lot of people want to.
Well, this also comes real quick.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, as this kind of the tie into the Renee Good thing, as we take away the badge, and the same thing applies here. like that is the same situation with immigration. It's like you said yourself, like this, we approximate, and you're like, okay, but what do you mean? Like, if you just put it in simple terms, like, so the state is like, okay, but if you put me on this public land and you go, I'm gonna round these people up, kidnap this person, do that, like this is all just aggression. Like you're entrusting the state to interpret the approximation. You're intentionally creating this ambiguous gray area where like it's sort of aggression, sort of not. Meanwhile, like you're granting extra rights to the state is basically what it is. Like I don't really know how you'd understand that other than that. Like you are giving them the interpretation here and giving them leeway.
Yeah. Yep. It's just Joe, if you have anything to say, please jump in. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting to me that so many libertarians. Now, I will say, I'm obviously a big fan of Rothbard. Like he's sort of like my central pillar. I don't agree with him on everything, obviously, but he's sort of my central pillar who I kind of built my philosophy around in this topic. But I will say that, like, in terms of like who gives the better argument, like Rothbard's argument is sort of just like, well, let's just pretend that this is private property. We're just going to pretend that this is private property, and then we can work from there. And at the very least, I think Hoppe fails, but at the very least, he tries to, ground it in the non-aggression principle. And so much of my frustration is that a lot of libertarians will make these arguments, and they've not thought through the conclusions that would bind them to these kind of like repugnant conclusions that they would not want to bite the bullet on. Let me say something about the welfare one again, though, right? I am incredibly skeptical of a libertarian who hates immigrants more for receiving taxpayer funds than they do the state, who is actually stealing the taxpayer funds and giving it to the immigrants. I am highly skeptical of people who have that as their value structure, their value hierarchy. That's not to say that the immigrants have a right to the tax money, but if your vitriol is more towards them than the state itself, I am highly skeptical of you as a libertarian and your commitments to liberty. And an example of this I like to give is like, let's imagine, right, if we're going to say that immigrants can't be here because their actions cause the state to tax me more, right? That's a very common argument in line with like the welfare argument, right? Let's imagine, Jose, that every time you walk outside your front door, the state has a policy that they are going to tax your neighbor every time you step out your front door. Now, this is obviously the state using your action, your right. You have a right to step out your front door, using your right to create a victim. By you're not creating the victim, but they're using your action as a reason for them to then tax your neighbor. Right now, that's obviously very unfair to your neighbor. They're being taxed from. It's not, they're being aggressed upon. But would that suddenly make it illegitimate for you to step outside? I don't see why, because it's if something is your right, the state deciding that, okay, next time you enact your right towards something, I'm going to create a victim. That's not your fault, right? Now, maybe you don't want that to happen. Maybe you would not walk outside your house as much, but at the very least, you are not the one causing the aggression. In the same way that if an immigrant is here, while they don't have a right to the taxpayer money, they don't have a right to take the taxpayer money. If the state suddenly just starts taxing people more in order to try to give those immigrants benefits, the mere taxation is not the immigrant's fault. It is the state's fault. And a lot of people will try to place the blame on the immigrant. And the initial taxation is not the immigrant's fault.
All right, we're getting a little late in the tooth here. I need to start wrapping up, get to bed. But I think we've kind of come to a crescendo here. But I guess maybe just kind of final thoughts. As I said, I do think we've had this weird moment. As I've said, this has been there's like these two issues that have always been like kind of a craw in the mouth of libertarianism. It's the borders and abortion. Abortion, I still give far more like, okay, there's actually intellectual like. Whereas, like, borders, it's always just kind of been like it was just missing that, like, it really isn't there. And I think as we said, like, yeah, we have a few libertarian thinkers that made some sort of cases for it, but I do feel like they fell flat. And I think for some reason, this political go-round, a lot of the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian movement got seemingly co-opted by this this impulse. And I think it's been... I don't know. We've had notable people calling for things like mass deportations, and I don't really know how to. I mean, what is that other than calling for the state? That we're seeing the videos coming out of Minneapolis. Like, to be fair, I guess they're cranking up and they're going to 11 with it to make a show of it. But even if they were doing it nicely, this is still, as we said with the Renee Good thing, this is you. Giving the state, the ability, or giving them your consent to kidnap people, at the very least. So, I mean, I don't know. You may be like, these people shouldn't be here. Now, now they are here though. Like, you mean, like, so more in the sense of like, in a perfect world, adjusted for, not the previous administration supposedly, which I think they probably did, carting in over $1 million subsidizing immigrants coming in. Sure, maybe in that abstract sense they shouldn't be here, but they are. And so you're advocating for violence against them? I mean, it really is kind of simple. For what? For these people, and a lot of people characterize it as an invasion. I'm sorry, that's just fucking retarded boomer slop.
Yeah.
Like because that is this like allusion to a coordinated government invasion. Like if there is that, it's your own government and they're doing it through the welfare state. And then you're like, well, I'm gonna empower the police state and that'll help that fucking problem. You're like, okay, that makes no fucking sense. But I don't know. I guess between all of you guys, final thoughts. And there's a lot to kind of process. This is just a weird moment, especially given what it's taken to get here. And you kind of look at it in retrospect and you gotta go, what the fuck? So I don't know, thoughts between you guys. And then I guess we'll do plugs and we'll get out of
here. This has been a really disturbing last couple of weeks, to be honest. We're Trump is also threatening to invade Greenland and take it over. I think we're involved in whatever's going on in Iran now, on top of the whole country, or the whole country is mostly divided on like a very obvious video of a ICE agent shooting a lady in the face 3 times. I don't think we're in a good spot, and I think libertarians who who actually care, they need to be like, you know, speaking out and being radical. They need to be trying to read theory and like, you know, argue the people that want like ICE going around rounding up people so we can somehow have some libertarian, you know, utopia once that's achieved. Like we need to get these people back on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ace.
Yeah, it's been absolutely horrific to watch these videos. Seeing, I mean, you have mass thugs going around, assaulting people, like, kidnapping them, and killing them in some instances. It's horrific, and I don't see how any libertarian who is serious can look at that and think, "Yeah, that's fine." Right? There's a serious cognitive dissonance if that's an actual libertarian, and they think that's just fine. That I think
real quick, not to cut off your final thoughts, but I guess something I've been wanting to kind of drive at a little bit is just like, even libertarian aside, because it does feel kind of like a little gay, like a libertarian this, libertarian, like even that appeal aside, like just an appeal to a better world, and like whether you want to say that's morally, I'm not. Like I really think that's kind of almost the same thing. Like making a moral claim of something being good or better, like in a certain roundabout sense, you're also making a claim of that being preferable. Like, yeah, maybe you can say in a high time preference sense, certain good actions can or bad actions can be positive for you in the short run. But at the end of the day, I think in a low time preference sense, this stuff is bad. Like, so like morally, economically, everything. I know everyone goes, "Oh, these people invaded. They're here. There's that. Oh, you're just some bleeding heart. You want to?" No, I want to stop the fucking bleed. Like, this is making things worse. We're weaponized. We've like almost over doubled the size of ICE. So like, and we're paying way more for these people. Like, they're not just going to go away. So like, we are paying for this. All this stuff is things we are paying for. We're making the situation worse.
Yeah, it's become like the third most expensive government organization, I believe, last time I checked. It's absolutely absurd. They're basically like a paramilitary group running, roughshod in American streets. And the fact that anyone can look at that and think, "Yeah, I like that," or "I voted for that." Like, I quite frankly, I've never seen such sadism. Maybe like the only other like instance I can think about in terms of like domestic sadism, it's like the American people are like bloodthirsty in terms of like bombing other countries. But in terms of like domestically, I can't think of another time in recent memory outside of like right after 9/11 and the treatment Muslims received from American people. It's really bad. Like a lot of people are incredibly sadistic right now, and they seem to love watching these thugs just attack people.
All right, Ace, where can people find you at?
Ace_Archist on Twitter. I upset the locals recently. A lot of people were very mad at me, and I co-host the End Times Continue with my co-host Pacing Joseph Dean, and you can find that on basically all the podcatchers.
Yeah, and we got JC in the chat. It says, "Oh my God, hi y'all," and he asks, "What happens first, Tower Gang or Slurp Gang reunion?" That's a fun one we have there. Now, to be fair, I don't know if I'm opening an old wound. I have never got into the weeds of whatever the hell happened in your breakup, and I don't expect you to drop it all on the table now. And I expect the same vice versa from you. I doubt you probably looked into all the weeds of that. So I don't know if I opened anything, but I just thought it was funny. Whatever. I don't know. I'd be down. I'd be down.
I talked to Konkin somewhat recently. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't know your relationship. I had no idea at all. So I will say, for my side of things, like, I'd be open to doing a Tower Gang reunion. I'd be open to doing a Tower Gang reunion with all of them. I don't think I'd be open to doing Tower Gang again, but I could do an episode with them. So, but anyways, Joe, where can people find you at?
People can find me on Twitter at Burn the Lies, and there's an A in the.
Hell yeah. Well, for those who want to support me and what I'm doing, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major odd podcatchers, and Twitter as well, at Tower Gang Jose. You can, if you want to support the show the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com/nowayjose2020. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see that QR code if you want to use that. But at the low level of $2, you get access to a whole host of perks. You get access to early episodes. I try to do 1 to 2 of those per week. Try to keep out 4 behind the paywall at any given time. You get access to an ad-free RSS feed. You get access to Telegram. You get access to the pre-show, post-show, and video calls from me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I give a big shout-out to my sponsors at the end of every episode as a big thank you for their support. I'm my previous co-host, entire gang, at Learner Toad, also at Brigade D's, at ZOVRCK, at _ Zeal, Tim Tell, at Jolly Klebold. Big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Tackless, 100 Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. With that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Love you all. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.